But he said, hey, we dressing up and we going to do what we came here to do. And that's either leave here with the W or leave here with the L.
You know, one of my fondest memories of Coach Tuccio, I think it was 1975, we were playing against West High. And at that time, I was on a really great team in the middle school at Isaac Junior High. And a couple of us went to Carl Hayden, and three of my teammates went to West High. And they came in pretty loaded. They were like number 2 in the state at that time. And, you know, they came in with chest pounding and stuff like that. And me and my fellow teammate Doug Ritchie were playing for Carl Hayden. And we wanted to play extremely well that night. Make a long story short, the game went back and forth, and at the end, the game was tied up. Coach Tuccio calls a timeout. There's probably about maybe 15 seconds to go in the game. He designs a play. You know, Coach Tuccio is going to design a play. He's doing this, and he's going to design the play. And so we walk out the huddle, and I say, yeah, right. I'm going to do what I'm going to do. I'm going to win this game and be the hero. Ball got passed around. I got the ball in the corner. I let it go. And it hit nothing but air. Next thing you know, man, there's a timeout from West High. The game is tied, and there was 5 seconds to go in the game. And I got my head down. I don't want to walk into the huddle. That's okay. Coach Tuccio is going to meet me at the half. He meets me at half court, gives me a little shrug, and said, "What the hell do you think you're doing?" "I'm trying to win the game, Coach." And then, make a long story short, we ended up winning the game in overtime. And then I went home pounding to my mom, and I go to my mom and said, "Man, do you see him, man?" He kind of shook me up there in front of everybody. She goes, "Boy, man, I would have slapped the shit out of you." Taking that shot like that. And that's just how Coach was, man. The coach, you know, but he understood. He understood what I was feeling at the time. And years later, I ended up going back and coaching at Carl Hayden. And a kid did the same thing to me. And Coach Tuccio looks at me, and we both started laughing. I said, "Coach, man, I got paid back. You know, the kid's trying to win the game. I can't get mad at him." So, you know, that's one of the stories I got about Coach. But he was a good guy. He was a great man.
I think, I'm not quite sure if we can take this, but Coach was tenacious. He was very, very strong, compassionate, honorable, family man. But we were playing East High School, and I won't even name the coach at East High School, but he called Tuccio a name, which we probably don't want to put on tape here. And I have never seen Coach so angry in my entire time being at Carl Hayden. We had to hold Coach back, all the players. Took about 5 or 10 minutes to clear everything out. And I don't even know if Coach ever spoke to that coach again. You know, the coaches get together every week, and I understand it was a long time before they spoke again, because he used a name with Coach that you just don't use, particularly Tuccio. And never understood that Coach played on the line in college football. You know, he never talked about himself very much. Sure. I didn't find out much about him until years later, how great a football player he was. But he was like 180, 155 pounds and played offensive line on a very great football team back east, and it shows you how tough of a man he was.
He loved students. He really loved. He taught history at Carl Hayden High School over 20 years, and he worked with the students, and he's a very strong coach, and a dear friend of mine. So we've been together for over 30 years, and very sad to see.
I was with Pete the last month of his life. I was with him every day. He's such a strong individual. He absolutely loved Carl Hayden High School with a passion, and he loved all of his players. He talked about them. We sat and talked for hours and hours about his former players and his experience at Carl Hayden High School. I'll never forget that. He is such a fine individual, strong family man, and a great person.
What I remember about Coach, he was very strong, very compassionate, but he was very honest. I had told him that I wanted to go further as far as basketball goes. He looked at me and shook his head. He goes, "Well, and if you don't learn how to shoot correctly, you're not going to do anything." So he took me aside, and his buddy would know, and he showed me the ropes as far as the fundamentals, how to shoot, this and that, and he just told me, "You practice. If you want to be good, you practice." And so after my senior year, he caught me coming from around the gym. I was going to class, and he put his arm around me. He said, "Now, Fred, I want to apologize to you first." I said, "Why, Coach?" He said, "You were a senior, and I should have played you more than I did, and for that, I'm sorry." I said, "Don't worry about it." And I never had a coach tell me that from that point on any other time. He was honest, he loved his players, and he's one of a kind.
One thing about Coach Tuccio was, he was new there, and he had the gym, and he was really serious. Yeah, I'm Italian, and he's Italian, but he was really serious, And me, I was a practical joker and everything. I used to like to throw the ball from half court, and it hit off the wall and everything. He'd get mad because he's going to tear the place up. One of the fondest memories that I remember was at West High when we were playing, and we had two of our guys that played with us at Isaac, Dan and David Olin, and David was on me, and he was yelling at me to pass the ball, and so when I looked at him, and then that's when David stole the ball. It took off running, and he pulled me out, and he laid it up for a layup, and he pulled me out, and he started yelling at me saying, "Man, I told you to pass the ball, I said, "Well, I tried to, but they stole the ball." So, that was just probably one of the fondest memories that he ever, because he really got mad at me over that. But the whole game changed on that, and, he was a serious and good guy. I mean, he really took coaching serious, up until the day he died, and, I was, always had fond memories sitting next to him, talking about the good old days, about how we used to play, and, even though I was a pain in his butt, but, I still had fun with him in every way, coaching, because I screamed too much, when I was help coaching and stuff. He'd get mad at me, but I take the game serious too. Thank you.
We always had something to talk about, and it was this story. He would always say, "Do you remember the time?" And I'm like, "Yes, I remember. At Chaparral, we were down. And Uncle RG, I remember, he's screaming at the refs, "Two technicals, you out of here." So he had to go to the locker room. And Uncle RG, I'm sitting on the bench because I had a broken hand. And Uncle RG was preserving me for the playoffs. So the playoffs was approaching. And I'm at the end of the bench, sitting there with my stuff on. I mean, if I could have ate a hot dog on the bench and drank a soda on the bench, I mean, I knew I was out. So Uncle Archie was sent to the locker room, and I could see Uncle Archie peeping through the door to see what's going on. And we were down by like 10 or 12 points. And it was the third quarter. Coach Tuccio looks down and said, "Get your stuff off and get in there, candy ass." And, so I grabbed my little hand guard, ripped them off, got in the game, and we actually came back to win that game against Chaparral with Mike Milbrandt. Great game. And at the end, I remember the next day, the article read, "Injured star sparks Carl Hayden," and I showed Coach that. And every time we saw each other from that point, he'd always ask me, "Do I remember that game?" Yes, I do.
And I saw him the last few days before he had passed away, and I thanked him, man. I just thanked him for being Pete.